everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome to Shields Live again on a Thursday. Sun's shining. I know the weather's always, you never know. I thought we were supposed to get some rain and storms, but I think it pushed off till tomorrow. So, again, thanks for joining us. Nothing real new going on right now. Just kind of waiting for better weather. As always, we appreciate you joining us and liking and commenting and saying nice things about Shields Sewing Center. It's greatly appreciated. But yeah, I think Jan's going to do a little sewing project today, working with the lace. That's always fun and very popular. And you can use a lot of different holidays, different things like that. So again, thanks for joining me. Joining us. I'm gonna go back to working on a PR machine. I've been working on those the last couple of days. So again, thanks for joining us, and we hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Tim.
See you.
Bye. All right. So how is everybody today? We're gonna have a little fun with lace. So I haven't done anything with lace for a while, and I used to digitize a lot of lace designs. So now we're having some. Hopefully, we're gonna be okay. I every now and then I notice my little symbol saying that my internet's not good. So if I freeze or something, let me know. I'm trying to keep everything going here. So. But anyway, I used to digitize a lot of lace, and I haven't done it for a while. And I think we're going to have a lace class again coming up. So we're going to the little lace pin that we're going to make today. So this is what we're going to make today. This is a little lace pin. Now this was a little freebie that I gave people actually some time ago. This was quite old, and I dug this out, and I thought, you know what, we're going to talk about this little lace pin, and we're gonna sew it out, and then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how lace, freestanding lace, I should say, becomes lace, so that it stays into one piece. And then I'm going to show you in the software how it sews out and stuff while this is sewing. Then you can kind of see the layers. So basically what you have to have is, you have to have like an underlayment, and then you can put anything on top that you want. So I digitized this. Now I gave you the link in the description of this for this video. I will put it in the comments also. And so this is a little freebie that you can get. Hello, everybody. And so I will have this for you available. And for those of you who are watching on YouTube, it will be in the description underneath the video. So it'll be in the video description. So, okay. So anyway, so we're going to make this little lace, the little 4-leaf clover pin today, because, it's getting close to St. Patty's Day. So we have to have something to wear for St. Patty's Day. So, okay. All right. So let's first talk about, I'm just going to leave this camera on for a minute. We're going to first talk about stabilizer. So when we're doing freestanding lace, we need to use a water-soluble type stabilizer. And there's a couple different kinds, and one of them works and one of them doesn't. Okay. So I want people to realize that there are a difference in the water solubles. This particular water soluble here is that plasticky stuff. Okay. This is water soluble topping. This is not a stabilizer. This is not what you use for freestanding lace. This is for a topper that you put over your t-shirt to hold the fabric or hold the threads above the fabric. So this water soluble topping is not a stabilizer. It's just a topping, and you do not use this for freestanding lace. Okay. So they also make a really thick version of this clear stuff, and some people use that for lace. I have never had good luck with that stuff. It breaks. When you do the satin stitches along the edges, everything pops out. I've never had good luck with it. So I do not recommend the plasticky style water solubles, because they just don't work well for lace. Years ago, we brought on the Floriani line, and now we have Dime. And they have this wonderful, both of them. So the Floriani is called Wet and Gone. Okay. And the Dime version of this is called Sew and Wash. Mine's upside down in there. Sew and Wash. And what this is, Just a second, I'm going to grab my banner while I'm seeing it and remembering to turn it off here. I always forget to turn it off. There we go. So the Sew and Wash, this is a fibrous material that's completely water soluble. So that's what you want to use for freestanding lace. So that's what I have hooped in my 4x4 hoop here. Okay, and you can see it looks sort of like fabric, but this is completely water soluble, and it's got kind of like a gluey substance in it. And so that's how you make, what makes your freestanding lace kind of stiff, gives it body. Okay, so it's very important, hi everybody, that you have the correct material in your hoop for freestanding lace. So we're going to be using, this is the Dime Sew and Wash that I have in my hoop today. Okay. And just a second, I'm going to go back to my comments. And then I'm also going to show you, oh yeah, Jackie, you've been around long enough. You probably got it. This pin, I think I gave everybody in 2000, I think it was 2008. So I have a lot of new people since then. And I thought, well, we're just going to go back and look at some of the old stuff because I have some really nice little designs. And I thought this was a fun one. So, okay. So I have in my 4x4 hoop, my Sew and Wash, which is my fibrous material. Now I did put, when I make lace, I almost always do 2 layers of no-show because it makes them a little stiffer. You want to have body to these things. Okay. So that way you have enough in there that it gives it some body. So it's not all limp and wrinkly looking. You notice that my piece doesn't look wrinkly or limp. It's got a nice body to it and it looks flat. So I'm going to show you how to get them flat too. Okay. Okay. So this is our Sew and Wash in a 4x4 hoop. Now, the other thing I'm going to tell you about is hoops. Okay. So hoops, when we go to do freestanding lace, what's important about freestanding lace is don't try to take like a 9.5 by 14 hoop and fill the whole thing with all of these little pins. Because what's going to happen is that there's a lot of stitches in lace. Okay. They're kind of dense and everything's going to pull away from the edges, and half of your little shamrocks, or in this case, clovers, 4-leaf clovers, would pull away from the edges and they'll fall apart. Okay. So I honestly, I very rarely use anything except the smallest hoop possible for my design. So in this case, we're going to be using a 4x4 hoop, and I put 1 item in each hoop. You might be able to do 2 of these in here. Okay. You might be able to stick 2 of these in here. If you turned it a little bit, you might be able to get 2, and that would probably be okay. But I'm not a big hand to double up on freestanding lace because there's so many stitches. You need to have your stabilizer. As you can see, it's drum tight in there. You want it very tight. Tighten your hoop down, and it needs to be good and tight. Otherwise, if it's too loose, everything's going to squeeze in like this, and all the edges are going to be loose. And you don't want that. You want them to be very tight. Okay. So does anybody have questions about the stabilizer and the hoop? So I'm going to use the smallest hoop possible for my little design, which is 4x4. I'm just going to put 1 in here, and then I've got this really tight. Now, like I said, I think I could put another one. I might be able to put another one in here, but I think it's too big for more than 1. Okay. So we're going to put this in the machine. Let me switch my camera over here. Give me just a second. We'll switch the camera over the machine, and we're going to get this started, but then we're going to do I'm going to share my screen with you, and we're going to do a little bit of talking about how they sew while this is sewing. Okay. And I'm going to leave this up so you can actually watch it sew. Okay. So here's my hoop. Let me get my camera down a little bit here. Just a minute. Okay. So I'm using my 5200, and I sent my design over wirelessly with my little, I have BES lettering, and it has this little wireless card. So it's kind of cool. So I saved it in the machine. And here's my little design. And this is the one I'm giving you for free. So you'll be able to get this. And I just brought it up and I'm ready to sew it. It's all in one color. Okay. Now, the other thing with freestanding lace, of course, we're going to use matching embroidery thread in the bobbin. So I've got my favorite thread to use for lace is either my brother thread, or I use my Madeira thread too. The brother thread and the Madeira thread have a little bit more of the thread is a little bit more, has a little more body. It's not quite so soft. And I think it does really nice lace. And my lace turns out nice and stiff, so it's not saggy looking. Okay. So I'm using brother. I wound this bobbin. So in my bobbin case, we've talked about the bobbin cases. I have my standard bobbin case that has the little green paint on the screw here. I have my standard bobbin case in my machine because I'm not using a pre-wound. Okay, and I've wound my green thread, and this is emerald green. If you want to know what color I use, this is my emerald green brother thread, and I'm going to put this bobbin in the bobbin. So I've got my embroidery thread on my bobbin too. Second here. And I've got my embroidery, or my emerald green thread in the needle. Okay, I've got a number 11 needle in my machine. I usually use a number 11, especially for lace, because I don't want it to poke such big holes. So lace especially, I like to use an 11. I use an 11 almost all the time, but lace I always do. Okay, so we're going to put our hoop in here. I've got 2 layers of my sew and wash in here. 2 layers, so it's nice and stiff. So there's 2 layers here. Okay. And lace is not very complicated. It's just going to sew. So while we're sewing, the second here, my phone decided it was going to go off of what I needed to do in a minute here, because I'm going to share my screen. So give me just a second here. My phone decided to turn off. I need to see the comments on the phone. So in a minute when I share my screen with you. Okay. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and we're just going to start this design. This design is about 9,600 stitches. It is 2.5 by about 2.5. So it's not very big. So that's quite a lot of stitches for that small amount of space. Okay. And when we get over to the computer, I'm going to show you how this sews. And so it's going to be a little hard to see on the screen, but I thought in the slow redraw, we'd see how it's sewed. So you could have an idea of what makes up a piece of lace, of freestanding lace. Okay. So let's go ahead and get this going. And I'm going to get it going. So it's going to start out and it's going to do an underlay. So we'll talk about that over here on the computer, where you can see it a little bit better. Okay, so it's going to get going. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change this over and I'm going to share my screen. And let's see, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I'm also, oh, second, I'm going to do this. I'm going to change my camera first. I'll put the other camera on because you'll be able to hear me better. Or the other microphone. All right. Then I'm going to share my screen. They changed my share screen button, so it's different now. Okay. But I am going to go ahead and leave on the machine sitting over here on the side so you can kind of see the machine running. Let's see. Let's do, nope, don't want that one. I think we want this one. Just a little teeny picture of the machine going so you can kind of see it going. Okay. All right. So is everybody still hearing me okay? I'm going to kind of turn myself away from the machine a little bit. All right. So let's bring up some software. And I want to talk about the way lace is made. So, and we're going to do a lace class because, like I said, I used to do a lot of lace and I did it manually because the software I had at the time that I did a lot of lace, I didn't have any like auto lace function, like net fill functions in it. But Dime has software called My Lace Maker that has that auto function in it. And also, I found out PE Design does. So there's kind of an more automated way to make lace. But I want to show you what makes up this freestanding lace so you kind of understand better how it would work. Okay, so I'm going to bring up on my screen, I'm just going to open. Now I am in Perfect Embroidery Pro. That's what I have. Like last week, we talked about the software and Toolshed. I am in Perfect. Actually, I'm not. I think I'm in the Lace Maker. Let me go to Perfect Embroidery Pro. So I clicked my little purchases, my little shopping cart down here, and I am going to click on Perfect Embroidery Pro and make default. That's my normal default software. I think I was looking at some lace stuff earlier. So, okay. So I'm going to click the open button and I'm going to open up my little pin because I made this into a little pin. And what I wanted to talk to you about is how this is digitized. So freestanding lace has to be digitized a special way so that everything stays together and it doesn't fall apart. So if you have tried sewing something that you thought was freestanding lace, you may have found that you put it in the water and everything falls apart. Well, that's probably because it didn't have the correct underlayment. Okay. So if I open up my little slow redraw, and I would tell you to open designs that you're interested in learning how to make. This is how I learned to digitize. I actually used a slow redraw and watched things sew on the screen so I could see what I had to use for stitches. And that is a very good way. And I also sit and watch the machine running. So that's why I wanted to leave the machine running over here. I'm going to bring this down just a little bit so it's a little closer. Okay. But that way you can see the machine running also. Okay. Hi, Lori. All right. So I'm going to get my slow redraw. And then let's talk about the layers here. So the first thing that needs to happen is you need to have something that's the underlayment that holds everything together. Okay. So as I pull this little cursor across here, you're going to watch this sew. And what it did is see how it's sewing on the right, and it's doing just a straight line. And everything is in one piece. Okay, so you notice that there's never a start or a stop. It just keeps going. And it's doing, so first it did a cross. Let's do it again. We slow this way down and maybe let it play. Okay, so if it plays, it's going to start it and it's doing the 0 degree, or, it's going horizontally. And you notice that it's making one solid line. Okay. That way it is not, second, I'm going to make it a little faster, not that fast. Okay, it's doing this one solid line and it's not starting and stopping because we need it to be hold together. I wish this doesn't have like a speed in the middle. It's very hard to get it on a speed. There we go. Okay, then it's going to go up and down, but you notice that it never stopped. It just kept going and you have to go around the edges. And now it's doing the vertical lines. Okay, but it was all in one piece. It's never stopped sewing yet. And if you're watching the machine, it has not stopped sewing. It's going to go around and it's going to go at a 45-degree angle. So it's never stopped sewing. It's just doing one continuous line of thread. Okay, and it's doing 45-degree angle. And then it's going to turn around and it's going to go from the other direction, which is roughly 130, I think it's 135 or 140 degree. And so now it's going the other direction. And it's making that grid pattern in the middle. That's going to hold everything together. Okay. So it's holding it all together, but you've noticed it's never stopped sewing. It's just sewing completely long. It's going to go around the outside edge, and then those outside edge pieces, give me just a second. I'm going to stop it for a second. When it starts doing the outside edge pieces, it goes around the edges of the design, just a straight stitch, and it's a short straight stitch. I'm going to make this slower now so you can watch it. It's going to go around it, and it goes around the actual edge at the 100% size. Okay. I don't think it's quite started there. It just finished up that little spot, but you notice it's still sewing. It's not stopping. Now it's going around the edge of the design at 100% size. So it's right along the very edge of our little map that we just made, our little grid. Then it's going to go in and it's going to put a straight stitch just slightly smaller. So it's just about all the way around. And then it's going to go in, it's going to do one just a little smaller. And I don't know if you can see it, but it's about 99%. I used to use about 98 or 99%. So it's going to go just slightly inside all the way around. So it's giving a little, it's kind of tying all of that little grid pattern together. And then it's going to go around to and it starts over here on the right. Then it's going to go to just a little bit bigger, and it does the zigzag. So it's doing a very loose zigzag, and it's tying all of those layers together. Okay. And right now, if you're looking at the machine, it's actually doing the final satin stitch. So here's our loose zigzag, and it sewed that a little bit ago. But this is tying all of this together because, and you've noticed that it's never stopped sewing. It just keeps going. It doesn't like flit around all over the screen. It's sewing in one continuous line. Okay. And then it's going to start working on the satin stitch. So now it's doing a thicker satin stitch all the way around. That's going to cover up all the edges of our little design. And that is what the machine is doing right now. Okay, it's doing the outline of the shamrock, or in this case, four-leaf clover. And it's going around the outside edge. Now, I did these in PE design. And when I did these some years, I mean, this has been quite a while ago. This was before I had the original Floriani / Dime software in 2007 that I made this. This was done in 2007 or 8. And when I made these, the satin stitch or the zigzag stitch is about half on the grid and half off the grid. In the PEP software, I have a little bit more option of making the satin stitch a little bit more onto the inside of the design. And sometimes I do that when I'm making lace because I want it to, I want more of the satin stitch to be in than outside of the design. So PE Design still doesn't have a setting that I could find today because I was playing with that today. And it had been a while, so I can change the size and change that. But I like the fact that the Dime software, whoops. Okay, so I just broke a thread over here, so give me just a second. I'm going to let this continue to sew while I change my thread over here. My machine decided to break a thread. Whoops, uh-oh. I think I've got some thread down in my machine now. Can't see. Yeah. I think I've got a piece of thread down in here, so we may not be able to finish this one. I think I may have to take my machine apart. Not sure. Let me see if sometimes I can get it out with the other thread, so we'll see. But I can see a little piece of thread in there, and I don't know. If I pull back, sometimes I can get it to come out, but I don't think so. think it's still in there. That happens sometimes, you know, when you do these lives, sometimes things happen. I'm not sure. We're gonna try it. We'll see if it'll sew for me, but I don't think so. I think I'm gonna have to take my machine apart. I've got a little piece of thread in there. Can't see it from the underneath here. We'll give her a whirl and see if it works. But I can still see a little piece of thread, so we're gonna try it. See if it sews. I'm gonna slow it down a little bit. Okay, so I'm sorry about that. You know, sometimes I think it's sewing. We'll let it go and see if it works. Okay, so now up on the screen, once you get around the outside edge, of the design, and you have it all tied together in one piece, then you can put anything on top. It does not have to be freestanding, okay? When you do the next part, it does not have to be freestanding. What is underneath has to be freestanding. So in this case, we have our little mesh going on, and then these little swirls can they are not freestanding, but they're on top of something that is freestanding. Okay. So we're going to back up a little bit. Yeah, I have problems too. You know, sometimes things just, you know, don't go quite right. There we go. It seems to be sewn okay, but I think there's a piece of thread down in there. But these little swirls, yes, I often have glitches too. Cheryl, it's okay. We all do. So now you can see it's doing the second little set of the little Celtic knot. Okay. So that is not freestanding. That was just a little design that I traced and made that lays on top of that mesh pattern. That is the freestanding part of this. So then I can put anything on. I can put letters on. I can put just decorative designs. As long as you've got your underlayment. That's the important part about lace. So that's why I wanted to talk about this part on the screen here so you could see it better. Okay. Yes, the bobbin is the same color. Or do you need to do anything if you use the same as the top thread? I use the same thread, Shannon, and I actually use my favorite thread to make freestanding lace with is either my brother thread or my Madeira thread, because it's got a little bit more body to it. The Floriani thread's a little bit soft for me for freestanding lace. I don't use Floriani much for that. Isacord, I'm sure would work fine. Glide, if some of you have that, would probably work fine. I like to have a thread that's very, that's smooth and very, it isn't as soft. So yes, but you use matching thread in the bobbin and in the needle. If you have multiple color designs, then you would use, you would have to have, change your bobbin thread as you change your top thread. So they're going to match. Okay. All right. So it's still doing the little Celtic knots, and those little Celtic knots are not freestanding. It was just a little design that I traced with my tool and made into a little decorative edge. And, but what's making it freestanding is because I have that mesh design underneath. Okay. So that's the important part about freestanding lace. You got to have that base that's freestanding so that it won't fall apart when we put it in the water. Okay. So we're getting about done. It's doing the last one here. The machine is too. So hopefully on the screen you can see better how it's sewing. Now this is how I learned to digitize. I watched things sew in my machine, and then when I got software that had a slow redraw like this, I sat and watched it on the screen. So then I could understand what it was doing. So I'd encourage you to do that. Watch things sew, because you can learn how to, like, that's how I learned to applique. I watched things sew. I knew that I needed this thing, and then I needed a placement line, and then a tack down line, and then a covering stitch. So that's how I learned to digitize. So that is an excellent way, is just watch your machine sew or watch it sew on the screen if you have software. Now the free version of Embroidery Toolshed does have a slow redraw in it. Even the free version does. So you can go watch that. You can go watch it sew. So my machine just finished. You heard it sing probably. And now the design's just about done on the screen. And that's the 4 little decorative designs that are on top of the mesh in the leaves. Okay, so there is our little design. All right, that's freestanding. So now I'm going to go ahead and we're going to switch back over to the other camera, and I'm going to show you how to finish this. Hi, Margaret. All right, so give me just a minute here. I'm going to close my software. So did that help you to watch it sew on the screen in a bigger, so you could see what it was doing? I like slow redraw. It's very useful. Okay, so I'm going to stop the screen sharing. Give me a second here. I'm going to open this up, and I am going to go back to my camera. Okay, so here's my live camera now. And like I said, I still think I got a piece of thread in there. I'll probably have to fix that, but it seemed to sew okay. Let's take a look at it. Yeah, it still seemed to sew okay. So it must not have been in the, it must be okay. All right, so here's our little 4-leaf clover. It's all stitched out and it matches on the back. Okay. Now I always, second here, I'm going to bring this over so I can see your comments better. And I think I need to change my camera or my microphone. Let me make sure I got the right microphone so you can hear me better, since I'm pointing the other direction now. Okay, so hopefully you can hear me. Okay, so here is our design. So I'm just going to pop this out of my hoop, get some of my threads thrown away over here. Oops, second here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take this out of the hoop. And I've got enough over on the other side that I could hoop it again and make another one. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and trim around this. And actually the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to trim all the little tails on the back. There's a few little tails that you want to trim down. Don't trim through the knots, because when you soak these out with water, you will, they'll kind of shrivel up. But I am going to trim them down so that they're not sticking up like that. Okay. And then I'm going to trim around this, trim down my stabilizer to, you know, just around the outside edge. You don't want to have like the whole sheet in there. And sometimes I keep these little pieces because I can use them again later. Like on the bottom, I can make it be my second layer of stabilizer, and I can put the pieces on the bottom, like I might cut here. And I could just open this up and see, then I've got a pretty good size piece, and then I could just kind of piece them together on the bottom, not on the top, because you don't want it to catch your foot, but I put these sometimes underneath a full piece on the top. Okay. So I keep these so I don't throw them out. All right. So there is our little 4-leaf clover. So what do you think? But it turned out okay. Even though we had that little boo-boo, I think it looks like it sewed okay. I'll get the thread out of my machine. Okay. All right. So now we need to make this free. We need to make it freestanding. We need to get rid of this stabilizer. So give me just a second. I've got a little thing over here, a little bucket over here. I normally do this at my sink in running water, and I like to use warm water. I'm just going to push my machine back to get it out of the way here. Okay, I like to use warm water, but I don't have, a sink next to me here, so I just went and got a little bucket. So I've got a little bucket of warm water here, and I'm just going to dip this in and let it soak and I'm not going to let it soak very long. I just want it to dissolve that. And it takes longer in water like this than it does in the sink. Okay, so I'm just going to reach in now and I'm just going to kind of swirl it around. But I don't want to leave it in there too long, because if you do, then it's not going to be stiff enough. It's going to be very, very limp. And I just like to get it. So when I'm using my sink, I just kind of, I often do put a little water in the sink, just let it kind of float to the bottom, and then it dissolves, and then I rinse it really good. Especially if you're using colored thread, you'll find that you need to rinse real well. Otherwise, you'll have a bit of a residue on your colored thread. But what I do next is I get that all rinsed off. That looks pretty good. I think I got everything rinsed. Okay, like that. And I'm then going to take this over here. I'm going to move this out of the way. And I've just got an old tea towel right here. And I'm going to take this, and I do this on every single one. I'm going to lay it on my tea towel, and I'm going to press down on it, stick it in my tea towel and press down on it so that it dries it, it blots it and dries it a little bit. And also what'll happen is if you had a little bit of a residue, it often pulls that little bit of sticky residue off. So, and then they also dry faster. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and use this is an old tea towel. I think my grandma probably embroidered on it. I'm sure, yep, one of grandma's embroidery tea towels. I just have tons of these tea towels at home, and this is what I always use for lace. And then I just wash them. They get kind of sticky and hard, and then I wash them. Okay, so I'm just going to blot it well, like that. All right, so this is my trick. So give me a second. I want to get this bucket of water on the floor before I knock it over. This is my trick for freestanding lace. My mother made hand crocheted snowflakes, and she taught me how to do this. This is how she made her snowflakes look beautiful. Okay, she went to the craft store, and these are hers, so they're very old. I mean, these could be 50 years old. I have no idea how old they are. These are styrofoam sheets. They're about 1 inch thick. Well, maybe, yeah, it's about 1 inch thick. Okay, and they're like 17 by something. And you do not take the plastic wrap off of them. Just leave the plastic wrap on. These are very old. I mean, these were my mom's. So I know they're old because I brought them home and I use them all the time. So I just left the plastic wrap on the outside. Then I'm going to take my wet lace, and this is how you keep them from getting all curly on you. Because if you just lay this on something and let it, see how it's already starting to curl? You see how it's already starting to curl? We don't want it curly. We want it flat. So Mom always used to take her snowflakes. She'd dip them in her Aleene's, what did they call it? It was an Aleene's product that made them stiff. It was a stiffener for the crocheted lace. The stiffener's in the stabilizer. And then she took pins, and I have a set of pins just for lace because they get a little on the gooey side. So you don't want to, be sticking your good pins in here. So I just have some just for lace, stainless steel pins. And then I'm going to put some pins on the edge of here and pin it down so that it stays nice and flat. And that is how I keep my lace flat. Then I let them dry, usually overnight. Okay, I'm going to put a pin down here in the little stem. But this is how I keep everything flat. It wasn't starch, Nancy. It was Aleene's. It was a stiffener. I can't remember exactly what it called it. They still have it, but it was something she used for the crocheting because there was no, there was no stiffener in. So this stuff has like glue in it, and that's how it makes it. It's like gluey, and this is how it makes it stiff. but we still need them to be flat. Okay. But this is how mom always did it. She'd tack them down with her pins and get it all tacked down on her styrofoam, and then she would let them dry, and then they would be nice and stiff when they were done. And these will be nice and stiff. So let me show you one that's dry. So this one's wet, and I usually just let them dry overnight. So this one is on here, and I'll just leave it on there to let it dry overnight. So I'll put this over here. And this is what they look like then when they're dry. But see how nice and flat that is? Can you see that it's not rolled? If I lay it up here, you can see it's not really rolly. It's nice and flat. Okay. And also it's got a little body to it. So this is one that I did last night and starched it and let it dry out. But see how it's nice, it's got some body to it. So there's a little pin all ready to be made into a pin. Now, I've done the pins several different ways, so I'll show you how I did my little pin. Okay. Here's one that has the pin on it. So here's another one that I finished. And I figured out a way that I can put the pins on the back of them and not really have them show. So what I use, and I know you're going to laugh at me, is always been those little, just the little gold safety pins. And you can do, like, I've got some of those here too, but here's the little, they actually make the little pin backs. And so here's a little pin back. You could actually use one of these. But see, I think it's going to show more because it's denser. It's going to show more through the lace. So I've always just used these little safety pins. So I've got some more little safety pins in here. Yeah, I just got these little pin backs like at Hobby Lobby or something. Okay. Put them back in my little bag. But I've got some of these little pins. So what I do, second, I got to get my glue gun up here. I use a little hot glue. Okay. I use a little hot glue. And there's really no right or wrong way to put this to get on here, but I like to put it kind of up here towards the satin stitch a little bit so that it doesn't show too much, because it's a little denser stitching right up along there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my pin like this. Okay. I'm just going to open up my pin, and then I'm going to put a little dot of glue right about here. You can kind of see where that's a little denser right there. Okay. I'm just going to put a dot of hot glue in there and kind of mound it up if you can a little bit. My glue stick's about empty, so like that. And then I'm going to lay the pin down in the glue like that. And if you don't have quite enough, and I don't really have quite enough, I'm just going to lay it in there, and then I'm going to put a little daub on top, just to give it like a little seal on there. And then just let it dry or cure like that. You see I've got just a little daub of glue, and it could just have just a little bit more on there yet. My glue stick is just about empty, so it makes it a little hard to get much glue out. There we go. Whoops. Don't need it on the pin though. There we go. All right, so I'm just going to let that dry and cool down. And then here's my little pin. This is the one I did this afternoon. So there's my little pin, and I can put it on I can wear, so, I don't ever have much to wear for St. Patty's Day. So I thought, well, we need to have some little pins to wear for St. Patty's Day coming up. So we can make little lace pins. Wouldn't those be cute little things to make for craft bazaars and stuff like that? And I've done several other little pieces of lace that were like small like this. You could make pins out of. One, I did a really cute one for Easter and different ones. So, okay. So this one's getting about done too. I think that's cool enough. So then I can take my little pin, close it. Okay. And then I'll get the little extra strings up, but then there's a second one. So what do you think of that? There's our little pins. So anyway, this design is free to you. Okay. I put it the link in the when I advertise this class. There's a link there, but I will put the link in the comments below this video on Facebook. And then I will have it in the description. If you're watching on YouTube, I will have it in the description below the video, also, that you can just click on it and it's on Dropbox. All right. So it's called I think I just called it the Shamrock pin or the 4-leaf clover pin or something like that. But I have a link right there that you can go right to it. So, all right. So yeah, so isn't that a cute little design? So now you know a little bit more about lace. So when you're looking at designs, make sure you kind of pay attention to how it sews, and then you know how maybe you could make it. So we're going to make some lace on Sew Along with Jan. We'll do some lace designs. Not sure, probably next month. It'll be, well, no, maybe it'll be in March. But then we'll learn about the layers again and how you layer it together and how you do the satin stitching and stuff to make that. So, oh yeah, aren't they cute? Yeah, you could use them. You could even use them as part of a bow on a package. You could just do whatever you wanted. I just thought they were cute, like little pins, because I never have anything green to wear for St. Patty's Day. So I always wore my little pins and I couldn't find one. So I thought, well, this will be a good class. We'll just make pins and then I'll have one for St. Patty's Day this year. So aren't they cute? All right. So let's turn the camera back up here so I can say goodbye to everybody. And oops, second here, I got to find the right camera and the right microphone. So sorry I had a little with the machine, but you know, you got to break a needle or you got to break a thread every now and then. Hang them in the window. Yes, you could do that as well. So they're not very big. So that's why I'm not hanging these in the window. But I thought they make nice little pins you can use to put on your shirt. I never have anything green. I'm not a big green person, so I don't have anything green to wear for St. Patty's Day. So I thought I'll just have a pin this year. So, okay. So that design is free to you for Facebook. It'll be in the comments below the video on Shield Sewing Center's Facebook page. And for those of you watching on YouTube, it will be in the description below the video on YouTube, and there'll be a link so you can get your free design. Okay. So next week, we'll see you next week. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet next week. I haven't decided. So we'll see you next week on Shields Live at 2:00 on Thursday. And I'll see you on Sew Along with Jan on Sunday night. So thanks, everybody. If you have any questions, let me know. Thanks. Bye-bye.